Hey YouTube, it's David from Live Forever or Die Trying, and today I have a video on a subject that, to be honest, is a little bit outside of my comfort zone. And that's going to be books on politics, or I guess politics in general. Now, politics are something that I've always tried to stay slightly away from. And as you know, this channel has a soft focus on longevity, life extension, and sciences. So in my opinion, it's never really been an area that I've needed to kind of pursue and explore more than standard media or social media provides. However, the more I think about longevity and lifespan, the more the questions of ethics come up and sustainability, whether that is environmental conservatism or whether that is in closing equality gaps or wealth gaps, or even a acceleration of the technological disparity or barriers in competition between higher performance and lower performance. And the more I think about stuff like that, the more I want to self-educate and try to explore what ideas are going to be relevant for, my particular topic of interest. So today we're kind of doing a little bit of a book haul, a little bit of a spotlight. This is on Verso Books, and they self-describe as a radical left publishing house. Now, before we get too far in about that, I want to say that I'm trying to read, some far left, some right-wing stuff. I want to read some stuff that's way off on the radar and try to get a full, well-rounded picture and then figure out kind of where everything sits in relation to itself. So while I'm reading far left revolutionary work, I don't necessarily align with it, or I guess I don't know yet because I haven't really read any of this before, but we'll see. So the first thing I want to mention is how I found out about this was from another booktuber's haul. I'll link that in the comment sections below because I don't have it in my brain at the moment. But when I logged onto their website, just checking them out, they happened to be doing their 50th anniversary sale, which was pretty cool. And they do this thing called a comrade book club, where basically you pay a monthly subscription fee and you get a certain number of hardcover books and ebooks. And I wasn't really planning on buying anything, but the deal was pretty good if the quality of these books is even average. So they're doing 50% off all their subscriptions, their memberships to their book clubs, and then 50% off of any books you wanted to buy. So they have 3 levels of the book club itself, and the highest tier of that book club was only $20 a month after the discount. And that $20 per month gets you 3 to 5 hardcover books, and then every ebook they publish in that month, which from what I've seen is between 4 and 8 books. And they give you an email link for it and, the EPUB version and all the different, formats. So it really seemed like a great value if these books are anything close to decent, in my opinion. But yeah, so I'm going to go over a little bit. I'm going to touch on the books first, kind of go over what each one of these is, and then talk a little bit about more of the publishing house itself towards the end of the video, and then see if I can tie everything back together to longevity at the end. So the first thing they send you whenever you get any of the book clubs is you get a little 2021 Verso Radical Diary. It's kind of neat. So they ship it to you, and it's got, your little planner section in it where you can write your days and your notes for, what you're doing. And at the right-hand margin here, it's got different dates and events that happen to different radicals, and this one says May 10th, 1872, Victoria Woodhull, suffragist and publisher of the first English edition of the Communist Manifesto, becomes the first woman nominated for the President of the U.S. And so you'll have little tidbits from history that they align with, which I think's cool. I don't know if I'll use it. I'll probably read through and see on what day certain stuff happened, but it's neat if you're into this. It also has a little bit of a back end to it and a little bit of a front end to it that also has some text about different movements as you get through the book. So I think it's neat. It seems to be well made. It's a little bit lightweight, but could be useful. The first book we have is going to be a paperback, which is Nancy Fraser's Fortunes of Feminism, From State-Managed Capitalism to Neoliberal Crisis. So they describe this book as it charts the history of women's liberation and calls for revitalized feminism. Second wave feminism emerged as a struggle for women's liberation and took its place along other radical movements, but feminism's subsequent immersion in identity politics coincided with a decline in utopian energies and a rise of neoliberalism. Now, foreseeing the revival of the movement, Fraser argues for the reinvigorated feminist radical able to address the global economic crisis. Since I'm pretty unversed on politics, I don't really have anything to say about that. I'm just trying to give you all something to look out for in case something catches your eyes. Second off, we do have a book that I started reading, which is Censoria by Mackenzie Wark, Thinkers for the 21st Century. And I started this, honestly, because the cover was beautiful and I can't wait to sit it on a coffee table. But it's pretty challenging to read for me, and let me explain. So you see an elephant on the front of the book. Personally, my grandmother interpreted that as it's a book on the GOP. But what it's actually talking about is the analogy of the blind people and the elephant. So, you know, this is going to be a strict paraphrasing because I don't remember the full quote. But, you know, one blind man goes up, rubs the elephant's tail, says this must be like a snake because, you know, it's scaly and it's cylindrical. You know, one goes up and feels the leg, and he describes it as a tree because of how stout and, you know, vertical it is. And basically, in this book, Mackenzie is, I believe, gathering 17 different authors or thinkers, and then tries to bring all these essays together to try to describe a political landscape as a whole, instead of just knowing its parts. So I like the idea and the premise of that. However, this is not an entry-level book in my opinion. I had to sit down with like my girlfriend and like try to have her interpret what some of these paragraphs mean, because as somebody who has never really read politics or political science or even a lot of philosophy, it was just challenging. To give you an example, we have passages like diachronic and informational, forensic and dialogic. The aesthetic of the interesting has the capacity to produce new knowledge. From Adorno on the products of culture industry to Cavell and Hollywood on screwball comedies, all contemporary criticism is thus, in some sense, an implicit provision of evidence for why that object or critic has chosen to talk about it as interesting. So it's interesting and intriguing as a book, but it's hard to get through for a layperson. So just throwing that out there because this is the one I've started so far. As you see, I'm tabbing off different sections, you know, key points, new vocabulary, and just stuff I thought was points of interest. So I am enjoying reading this as kind of like a personal intellectual challenge, and I'm hoping the rest of these books in this book club aren't like this, because I've signed up for 3 months, and if I get 20 books that I can't read, I'm going to be real frustrated. But we'll circle back on the next update. Then we have Revolutionary Feminisms, edited by Brianna Bander and Rafif Zadea. Sorry if I butchered that. But this book is a recount of 40 years of feminism. Looking into it, it seems slightly easier to digest than the former book. Each chapter gives you selected writings and like additional reading. So if like a particular like feminist like catches your eye, you can kind of expand on what's in this book. And that's kind of like what I've seen so far is like a pattern. A lot of these are essay collections or books that are trying to explain former work or make connection between works that already exist. So I'm not sure if all of these are going to require prior reading, but again, this is something I hopefully, after I read, I can touch on more in upcoming videos. And then finally, we have hopefully the most accessible book, and honestly looks the funnest in my opinion, which is Radical Hamilton by Christian Parenti. And so this book they describe as a dramatic reevaluation of the founding of the United States and the history of capitalism, a retelling of radical Alexander Hamilton. We rewrite the history of early America and the global economy. For much of the 20th century, Hamilton, sometimes seen as the bad boy of the founding fathers or portrayed as the patron saint of workers, patron saint of bankers, was out of fashion. In contrast, his rival Thomas Jefferson, a patriotic guy, Democrat and slave owner who feared government overreach, was claimed by all. But more recently, Hamilton has become the subject of serious interest again. So again, briefly looking through this book, it looks more like a standard biography of Hamilton with a political slant. So this one looks really fun to read, and honestly, the only reason I didn't start reading this one first was because the other one had a cooler cover, and I wanted to set it out sooner. But yeah, like vanity aside, I am excited for this book as well. But yeah, jumping back into the publishing house, Verso seems like they have a lot of really interesting books, everything from like communism and anti-capitalism to like anarchism and just a big range of subjects on the left-hand side of the spectrum. So obviously, you know, communism would be more authoritarian, your anarchism would be like more libertarian left. So it seems like they cover a pretty wide range within leftist thought. So hopefully this is going to be a good house to follow if you're looking to round out that knowledge. If you do have experience with this publishing house, I would love to hear your thoughts below, because I've only heard like one itsy bitsy tidbit about them. They seem to be pretty genuine and like not authoritarian in how they portray themselves. Like, it doesn't look like they're trying to like convince you of a certain dialogue that they personally carry as a house, but try to view like the full range so you can make your own decisions. Another thing that I also like that as I was reading about them I found out is apparently 10% of each order they donate to independent bookstores, which I love. On top of that, they constantly run specials, so I believe you can either get free ebooks or like heavily discounted ebooks if you're a student. I don't know if that is like with the general EDU email, since I don't have one, or if it's specific to like politics or what have you, but that could also be something interesting to look at. And then finally, wrapping up the video, I just want to kind of bring this all the way back to the beginning. When I'm thinking about like what I'm most interested in, which is lifespan, longevity, and aging, or something that, you know, from a privileged position I can, I guess, chase. You know, I'm well off enough that I can afford to buy supplements, and I'm not worried about like losing my job or something that causes stress for other people that legitimately shortens lifespan. I have to realize I'm coming from a place of privilege to even be able to follow this interest in the first place. And that's kind of thinking about that has led me more to wanting to inform myself about, you know, the civil rights issues of others, you know, the economic problems of others, and the politics that are going to be implied if something like longevity or life extension happens in the somewhat near future. I don't think I can come from a moral ground where I can push these things while keeping all of that in like a blind spot. I just don't think ethically I can afford to be ignorant about that type of stuff. Again, this is a full learning process for me. As you know, I really haven't started reading before 2019, and I've only really read 80 books so far, and most of them are not about politics or economics or anything like that. I am reaching out and trying to learn in multiple domains as well, from different philosophy courses like you saw on Coursera and one of my book haul videos. Also reached out to David Murphy in particular and asked for some pro-capitalism books, because I'm going to be reading about anti-capitalism for this book haul. And really, I'm just trying to create a well-rounded view about these sectors for myself. So as I review these books coming up and give you my personal thoughts, I just would appreciate if you kept in mind that I'm still a beginner with all of this. So if I say anything that needs correcting, I actively want to announce that I would like that criticism, but to try to keep it as a open conversation instead of, you know, I guess derogatory, because I am trying to learn this genuinely. If you have any recommendations for like further reading in these realms, I would absolutely, genuinely love it if you left them in the comments below. not only for the algorithm, but genuinely, this is a field that I want to know more about and help develop, you know, my repertoire on these subjects. As always, if you're looking forward to, you know, following along on this journey, or maybe hopefully you can get some recommendations yourself, as always, feel free to subscribe, like, and comment. Until next time, see you around.